Welcome everyone to Red Planet Live. I am your host, Ashton Zeth. I am elated to be hosting the Mars Society's podcast and leading the conversation about human exploration of the universe and the future settlement of Mars. As a longtime space enthusiast, I am passionate about STEM education and making humanity an interplanetary species. So thank you everyone for joining today and supporting Red Planet Live. So with today's conversation, features a familiar face, the one, the only, the Mars Society Executive Director, James Burk. Thank you for being here.
Ashton, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm excited to chat with you again. But for those that don't know, James Burk is a founding member of the Mars Society and has served as the Mars Society Executive Director for the last 3 years, overseeing all Mars Society programs and initiatives. Last year, Burk served as the commander for the Transatlantic Mars Crew 261 at the Mars Desert Research Station in southern Utah, where he is now. Perfect timing. In addition to leading the Mars efforts, James is also a co-founder of Space Northwest, an organization that's focused on strengthening and growing the space community in the Pacific Northwest and attracting new space interest to the area. Lastly, James also leads the Mars VR virtual reality project and has led the Seattle chapter since 1998. James, welcome back. Again, excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Ashton.
Well, let's see. Before we kick off the conversation, want to remind everybody that the Mars Society 27th Annual International Convention will take place this year from August 8th to 11th at the University of Washington in Seattle. This 4-day event will bring together leading scientists, policymakers, commercial space executives, government representatives, media, and space enthusiasts alike to discuss pressing topics related to space exploration, technology advances, and planning for the human exploration and settlement of Mars. The Mars Society will again offer both in-person and virtual attendance, so attendees from around the world can join the conference, pose questions, and interact with their fellow enthusiasts. More details can be found at www.marssociety.org. Okay, we're going to jump right into the conversation. As you know, we do a segment called Question of the Day. And I got asked this question last week while I was at a work conference. Everybody knows I love space, so they like to ask me questions. And this was one I hadn't been asked yet. So today's question is, if you were a character on the Star Trek Enterprise, what would your role be?
This is very easy for me. Jim Kirk,
There
Captain.
we go.
I used to come back to work at Microsoft in my office, and someone had written on my whiteboard, Captain James T. Burke.
I love it. Okay, obvious. Well, that makes total sense. I mean, you're executive director for the Mars Society. It makes sense that you would be leading the crew there as well.
I've always dreamed of being a starship captain since I was a little boy, so that's the one I have to pick. Sorry.
Oh, that's so fitting. I love it. I'd say if I were a character, I think I'd probably see myself as like a counselor, like Deanna Troy, an empath who like feels others' emotions, somebody that others think, they can trust and talk about some of their frustrations or things that they may be, happy or excited about, and help problem solve. I think that's where I would fit in on the Enterprise.
That makes a lot of sense.
There we go. Thank you. Let's see. We're going to dive right into it. As usual, we've got a whole hour to talk about some of the Mars Society initiatives and projects. And I know that you are obviously involved in leading most of those. So want to dive right in. Just a reminder to those that are listening, feel free, if you have a question, put that into the chat. I will sprinkle those throughout the conversation. So let's dive right in. I wanted to start with a topic that I know you are obviously familiar about because you are on location. So in the last year, I've had a chance to speak with crew members from both MDRS and Flashline. And I know that you served on a crew last year as well. So let's start with MDRS and Flashline. Let's dive right in. Obviously, you're on location right now. You're on site at MDRS. What are you doing there right now?
Yeah, we're actually closing out the season. For the field season, we've been running since October. We've had, I think, about 15 crews, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And we just wrapped up Crew 300, which was a
300.
special crew of new partners to the Mars Society, including Blue Origin, folks from Biosphere 2, the SAM habitat at Biosphere 2, and then someone that's a NASA contractor and partner, Emily Apolliono, who runs Interstellar Performance Labs. So we had a really great crew, and she's also part of the world's biggest analog project.
Okay.
So yeah, we're here. We're kind of juggling some things today. We actually had some trouble with our solar power system, which I would have to say it's a little bit flawed design. We've been trying it for years to keep it up and running. I think it's time to just replace it. I think we're going to start a fundraiser soon to try to do that and make some other upgrades to the station. But, our station here in Utah, the Mars Desert Research Station, is still the #1 most visited station in the world, analog research station in the world out of all of them. And it's still sort of the jewel of that whole community. And, we're really proud that project has been going for so long at the Mars Society. We first built the station in 2002. And folks like John Baranka and Shannon Rupert and many other volunteers have put their lives, around this, done so much work for this station. And it's an honor for me to continue their work and to make sure that we have a great team and a great analog research program here. So here's the station I'm at right now. I'm actually sitting in the upper deck of the main habitat, which you see on the left there. But we had, you mentioned, Ashton, my crew last year, Transatlantic Crew 261, and we had a podcast right after I got out of there, which folks can reference. Where I talked about all the things we did. We were featured on CBS News, a local Salt Lake City affiliate, as well as later on by Northwest Aerospace magazine. Yeah, there's the crew. Those are all my friends. 4 from France, 1 from Canada, 2 from the US. And we had 20 experiments. We did 19 EVAs and 12 sols, 12 days in sim. So that still the fruits of that mission are still kind of coming out for all of us. But the program overall, we were just one mission of 300 crews here. So you can imagine the amount of research that's been accomplished in the 22 years we've been operating. And there's, some of the insights. I recently gave a talk at the International Space Development Conference in Los Angeles, where I talked about both stations, and these are some of my slides from that. But we've been out of here in Utah for over 22 years, and the longer we're here, the more we're in love with the terrain and the fact that this is a Mars analog from a geological perspective. There's so many terrain types. There's even a moon terrain that we visited yesterday, where there's all these ancient seashells from an extinct crustacean that's nicknamed Devil's Toenails. There's literally like hundreds of thousands of these shells out in the middle of the desert, like where there's not been water forever. They're 140 million years old. But that's just one example of so many other things out here in Utah, such as dinosaur fossils. There's a major dinosaur dig site just 2 miles north of us, which is like next door here. It's the biggest dinosaur find of our generation. Wow. And there's a museum in Chicago that is digging out fossils there that they've recovered over 20 intact dinosaurs at this point from that one quarry. And so the amount of science that's happening in this area of Utah, Hanksville, Utah, is just amazing.
That's incredible. I didn't realize, one, like with the geological landscape, that there was dinosaurs that were found so close. And obviously there's a lot of research that's happened over the last 22 years, but can you highlight specifically, because I know somebody asked me about this not too long ago, there's obviously a greenhouse. What type of research is happening specifically in the greenhouse?
Great question. We actually are looking for someone to help us with that. We're looking for a greenhouse coordinator. What we normally have done in the past is we grow different types of plants that'll assist the crew during their mission. So tomato plants, salad greens, herbs, and also things that we do scientific research with. During my crew a year ago, we were using tomato plants to conduct an experiment called biostimulation, where we would put spirulina algae on the tomato plant to see if it would grow better, if it would stimulate the plant, and it does. And we were measuring the effects of them, different techniques for that. So, but we want to do a lot more. I mean, there's so much research we could be doing here. It's on me, really, and our team, Sergey, our director of MDRS operations, Kay Radzik, our director of MDRS refits, Ben Stanley, who's going to take a more active role with our analog research program now. We're all going to try to really level up the science here and really get this into to be a world-class facility that partners can come in and work with us. Partners like, NASA and Blue Origin, SpaceX, and all the different space companies that are out there.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking for somebody specifically for the greenhouse. How does that typically happen? Are you looking for one person that's there year round, or
we're looking for someone that's going to coordinate it? So someone that can come periodically to Utah, maybe 2 or 3 times during the field season, but that is available remotely for questions from the different crews, because we'll have to train each crew on how to keep the plants going or whatever experiments we do in there. And so we need someone that's going to be able to help us coordinate that. Ideally, it would be someone that's a PhD in a related field or a PhD candidate. But yeah, we're looking for that now. Please reach out, info@marssociety.org.
There we go. You're going to get some inquiries right after this. Let's see. So for those that are unfamiliar with kind of the structure of the crews, I mentioned that you were commander. There's obviously somebody who's responsible for managing the HAB. What is the various roles? Can you highlight, like, somebody that was interested? I want to go to MDRS. I want to be an analog astronaut, but I don't know what I would purposely do while I was there. What are some of the crew roles?
Yeah, and we can have anyone be on a crew. There's no like specific skill requirements just to be a crew member. The different roles that people have here, commander, executive officer, those are the sort of 2 leadership roles. And we can often put young candidates for leadership in the executive officer role so that they can have the experience of doing that early on. There's also roles like health and safety officer, which is someone that just makes sure that everyone's okay, is drinking water, deals with any minor first aid issues. Folks that have CPR training excel in a role like that. Then you have the crew engineer and crew scientist, the crew journalist, who tells stories about how what we're doing and takes photos. We had an excellent crew journalist on my crew, Chris Davidson. She's a great example for people to follow. You can reference all the crew reports and photography she did for our mission 261. But crew engineer, you go around, fix things, you go around, troubleshoot, check all the propane tank levels and other things like that. And then scientist, you're here to do science. You're here as a PI. Maybe you're bringing your own research with you. And often that's what crews do. We're an open platform for crews to come in and do their own research, retain their own IP, and publish the results on their own. But we do want to have more papers published through us as well. We are working on setting up an analog research journal soon that we're going to talk more about that will allow people to do that.
Yeah. So is there like a minimum requirement for background or educational, qualification that you need to have to be a crew member?
No, I mean, we've had university students pretty frequently. In fact, a lot of our crew members are university students. We've had even like high school age folks in some crews, but generally it's adults that are young professionals that want to have the experience of being an astronaut, of living on Mars and what that experience be like, and working in a research station like this. And it is true, as Ronnie Dean says in the chat, that 2 of our former MDRS crew members are now astronauts. Jessica Watkins is in the NASA Astronaut Corps. She was out here in 2005 when she was a young master's student. She went on to work at JPL, became a NASA astronaut, and is on track to potentially be a moon astronaut. She may end up being the first woman on the moon. And then Cyan Proctor, who was on the Inspiration 4 mission, was a crew commander here multiple times. So yeah, those are hopefully the first 2 of many of our alumni that will be astronauts.
Absolutely. And Kelly Girardi as well. And I've reached out to Dr. Cyan Proctor. I'm hoping that, one of these times she'll come on the podcast and we can talk about her experience at MDRS.
Yeah, Kelly Girardi, I forget about her, but she was I believe she was on one of those suborbital flights recently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
With Virgin Galactic.
She counts too. So now we have 3.
There we go. And I'm sure we're going to have, 4, 5, 10 in that lineup as well. So we know that for like those particular women that have been crew members before, they've gone on and serve as astronauts now. But I know you mentioned some partnerships with some companies like Blue Origin. What does that look like? Are you facilitating a partnership with those companies so that they can send out potential astronaut crews, or they're coming for research missions? What does that relationship look like?
All of the above. We want to work with everybody. We want to give people opportunities here to be crew members, to be PIs on research projects, to be part of our mission support team that often works remotely, remote science team. We want to have partners on everything we do here. And yeah, Blue Origin, we actually had a crew member on Crew 300 that we just did as part of a special experience for 4 people. One of them was Daria Opakaneva from Blue Origin. She's working on innovation projects there, and we're really looking forward to working with her and the team at Blue Origin in the future on a lot of stuff, hopefully.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so we've talked about MDRS a bit, but we got to give some love to Flashline. Last
Yes.
year, I did get to interview a crew that had recently completed their mission there as well. So can you highlight what are the differences for those that don't know between MDRS and Flashline?
Yes, Flashline was our first station. We built it in the year 2000. There's an epic story around that. If you can go get the book Mars on Earth by Robert Zubrin, which is a little known book. A lot of people in our community that should read that haven't read it yet, and I always tell people get a copy of it. It tells the story of why we built these stations and what the first crews did on them, and very science heavy. But Flashline was built up in Devon Island, Canada in the year 2000, next door to the Houghton Mars project that NASA had been running, and next door to Houghton Crater, which is a perfectly preserved impact crater, one of the few on Earth. And so it is a unique analog environment. It's an isolated environment. It's an island the size of Ireland that's up in the Arctic Circle. It's very expensive to get there, very long flights to get there. You have to fly commercial travel up to Canada and then up to Resolute Bay, which is a small community up there in the Arctic Circle. And then we take a Arctic plane, a Twin Otter, over to Devon Island, and we land on an airstrip that's literally just a flat plane. And then we, haul our gear up to the station. We reactivated the station last year. Last summer was the first time we'd been out there in 7 years due to COVID and due to other factors. Yeah, there was our crew of 5 last year, Flashline Crew 15. They did a fantastic job, commanded by Andy Wheeler and XO Terry Trevino, Andy Greco, Caleb Poole, and Olivia Drayson rounded out the crew. And they were able to test out all the equipment. They gave the inside of the station a nice full cleaning and scrub down, made sure everything was up and running. And so now we're able to send crews every season, which was always been our goal. We've had the station for over 24 years now, but we've only sent 15 crews, and not even every year. So we want to get back to that cadence. There's so many opportunities for people up there to do cutting edge science and do their do biological and other geological explorations up there and do cutting edge work. So we're really happy that we have a crew going. Again, they're actually going to leave in about a week to head up there. It'll be Crew 16. And our commander this year is Ilaria Sinelli, who's a longtime Mars analog astronaut, veteran commander at MDRS, multiple stints, ran our chapters in Ireland and Italy, where she lived in both of those 2 places. And she's also very active in the analog research community, the human factors community, the space human factors research community. She was the chair of an organization for that. So she's going to be a fantastic commander for this mission. Terry's returning. Terry Trevino's returning as XO. And we have several new partners on this mission. One person from SpaceX, and then the rest of the crew. We have an announcement out on the website. You guys can check it out and get all their backgrounds.
Excellent. Okay, yeah, www.marssociety.org. Check it out. I'll be excited to hear about some updates from that crew as well. Well, on that last graphic, we saw Flashline, we saw MDRS, and there was one more. Can you tell us about what
Yes.
that third location is?
There's that last one's not one, it's actually two, and really there's more stations being developed than these two. So our Australian chapter for a long time has talked about building a station, and you see the rendering there. Their design is essentially um, either a winged body or a space station module on its side, not a tower like Flashline and MDRS are. Those are meant to be like a Mars direct hab that has landed, and you'd ridden that to Mars, as your spacecraft. It's not your home on Mars. This would be more like a space station module kind of design on the ground. That's Australia. They want to build theirs in Arkarula, which is a really unique area where there's awesome geology. There's stromatolites there. A great place to test out operational challenges that we would have on Mars, looking for fossils like that. And then Mars V in Mongolia. I mean, Mars V is such an impressive organization. They've gotten funding from the prime minister and the president of Mongolia for their station, and they're developing it in the Gobi Desert. And we're really excited about their partnership. We actually had their crew out here this field season. They had a crew of 6 come out to the station as part of an exchange for that program.
That is pretty cool. That's
But
very
there are many other analog research stations in the world. Not all of them are operated by the Mars Society. There's other analog research stations like High Seas in Hawaii. There's Lunares in Poland. There's Chill Ice in Iceland. There's many others. There's the Amity program that is run by Austria, the Austrian Space Alliance, and they often do missions in the deserts in the Middle East and Africa and Europe. And we're part of that community. Okay, this is a whole community of stations around the world. We're being pulled together by this really cool project called the World's Biggest Analog. And I mentioned Emily, who was on our crew 300. She's the director of crew selection for that. And she's also helping to work with standards for all the analogs. And so basically, we're part of that. Another habitat is Biosphere's got the SAM habitat, which is a super cutting edge habitat where they're pressurizing the whole habitat. It's kind of like the MDRS campus condensed. They have the original Biosphere prototype building that they built before the main terrarium. They've repurposed that to be their green hab, their greenhouse. And they've got aquaponics in there, and they have the whole habitat's pressurized. They're measuring all the oxygen, CO2 levels. But then they're able to have this thing called the Mars Yard, which is like a warehouse-sized building that people can go EVA out into, and they're in this Mars terrain. And it looks like a movie set. I was just there last month as part of the Analog Astronaut Conference, which, by the way, the Analog Astronaut Conference is a great event. You guys, everyone should go to that. But the SAM habitat and the Mars Yard, it's going to be an amazing facility when they're finished. And they've had, I think, 2 or 3 crews so far, but hopefully a lot more. And we hope to have assemble a crew that goes out there in 2025.
Yeah, can reiterate, it was pretty cool when I got to tour Biosphere 2 last year before the convention that was in Arizona. Got to meet with Kai Stotz at SAM, and yeah, it was pretty cool to see their Mars Yard and their hab. So yeah, if you guys are interested, there's a lot of opportunities for analog missions. If that's something that you're interested in, they're always looking for individuals to participate. So check it out. You can also, if you're interested in doing MDRS or Flashline, go to the Mars Society's website to apply for one of those roles. I'd be curious.
Yeah, and Ashton, anybody can come apply to the MDRS. I mean, we actually need more crews to apply to fill up our next 2 field seasons. There's a lot of things we have planned, but we need people to apply. You can come out and be the crew journalist or a visiting researcher, or just kind of learn how to do this craft. You can apply alone, or you can form a crew on your own and apply together and bring your own research, or even just go out for a great experience, so please apply.
So you're telling me to apply?
Yes, I've told you to apply several times.
I know. It's in the works, as if, I want to do, I remember you telling me that you could do 1 week or you could do 2 week, and 2 week is better because you get in the full immersed experience. While you're there, you actually start to feel like you are on a different planet. So I got to find 2 weeks that I can take off work and participate. But I have on my to-do list, apply. It's been on there, I think, for at least 2 years. It's in the works. I would love to do something like that. Have you considered doing an all-female crew? Has it ever happened? And that
We've
would that be?
we've had several. I
We've had
mean,
okay.
let me talk about, like, we've done human factors research now for several years, and we've analyzed how people do out here.
Hmm.
One researcher of note on this is Inga Papavite. She got her PhD at University of Iowa on this, and she had really awesome insights about how different gender roles do out here. And one of her big insights was women do better at analog missions because they, in general, communicate more. In general, they work together better. I mean, obviously, there's examples of different genders doing things differently, but
Of
in
course.
general, women, men take action more, and women kind of think things through more. And you kind of need more. You need to kind of slow down a little bit when you're out in space and think things through when there's a problem.
Right. Analyze, be methodical about how you tackle situations. Well, I see we have a question here from William. It's curious about how MDRS uses lessons learned to inspire SpaceX and NASA planning.
So we are early with some of the partnerships with NASA and SpaceX in this era. I mean, we've had people from NASA out as crew members in the past. We've had small grants with NASA through Spaceward Bound. But what we'd like to do is actually work with the astronaut office at NASA and work directly with folks that work on the NASA analogs, like Hera and Chapea. And
Hmm.
so we actually have been recently contacted by them to exchange information. They asked for information on our crew summaries and different crew report research tools that we have. And so we've provided that to them. But we really want to have more discussions with NASA and form some really tight partnerships. Same with SpaceX. We were recently contacted by them about potentially using the station, and we're still having those discussions. And it's exciting because just being contacted by like NASA or Blue Origin or SpaceX about partnerships, any one of those would have been a big deal. But we're talking to all three of them and others too, and so it's just a fantastic time for what we're doing.
That's incredible. I love to see the collaboration. I mean, we all have a very similar goal, which is to explore the universe to get humans to Mars. So it's cool to see the collaboration between the different companies, the agencies. I'm excited to hear more about that as those partnerships come into fruition. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody that is considering going on an analog mission?
Um, do your homework before you get out here. Make sure that you understand what you're getting into. It's
Fair.
a lot of fun, but there is a little bit of a learning curve to what we do, and we are in a harsh environment. We're in the Utah desert. You have to drink a lot of water. You have to kind of watch how you're feeling. People get lightheaded and nauseous and dizzy and things like that out in the desert. It's not even sometimes not just the first day. Sometimes it takes a couple of days to acclimate your body to it, and you might have symptoms on day 3.
Mhm.
And so do your homework, but this is something that we want to provide an opportunities for lots of people. We want to provide opportunities for everybody to do this, to learn how to work in space, essentially, to learn how to be an astronaut and what it's like. And when you're on a mission, when you're in sim, I can tell you from my personal experience multiple times, you forget that it's a simulation. You feel like you're on Mars. And I remember my last year around this time when we were talking about
Yeah.
the mission I had just finished. We were doing so well, we could have kept going. Like we could have lived very comfortably on Mars the way our crew was operating. And that for me, that just shows all the stuff we're doing here is right. Like
Hmm.
we are preparing for Mars, and we're going to get there, and we're going to be ready when we get there.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, how passionate you are about the mission and the purpose and why we're doing this and preparing for when, humans get to Mars. That's going to be incredible that we've done this research. We've done these simulations so that when we get there, we know what we're doing. We have a question here. AC asks, does the Mars Society have plans for a 2-year plus Mars mission? So like long duration simulations.
Yeah, that's a good question. We don't currently have a plan for a mission like that. That's a game changer. Like that's 2 years of using one of our stations, that would have a huge opportunity cost for us. We've in the past talked about doing a year-long mission up at Flashline in the Arctic. And I think that is something we could do in the next couple years if we had funding for it and willing crew members. They'd essentially be wintering over in the Arctic. That would be quite an adventure for them. But that would be a tremendous opportunity, I think, if we were able to pull a mission like that off. I don't think we're ready to announce something like that we're going to do that yet, but I think you may see us do that soon. Now, there are other ways to do long duration missions. We had a mission called Mars 160 a couple years ago, or back in 2017, not more than a couple now, where we had a crew stay 80 days at MDRS, and they were going to stay 80 days at Flashline. They ended up staying a month. But we have a bunch of research from that mission that we still need to publish that we're going to work on publishing, hopefully by the end of the year. And some of the insights of that mission, we're really, I think we need to get out there. Long duration is where you can really double down and do more science and do like, observations over a longer period of time than you can do on a 2-week mission. So I think we do need to do more of that, but we also want to balance that with giving opportunities for people too, and having lots of crews.
Right. So. Yeah. There's a lot of people that want to go on those missions. Well, I love the questions that you guys are giving right now. Gamma asks, how do you simulate muscle atrophy at the HAB?
We don't really simulate that. So that would be something where you're talking about like 0G, your bones get more brittle, kind of osteoporosis type symptoms in 0G. I think artificial gravity research is an extremely under-researched field in space. We're going to have artificial gravity on Mars, or not artificial gravity, we have natural gravity on Mars, but it's less than Earth. The effects of the human body on Mars and moon gravity is something that's very hard to research because you need to have some artificial gravity way to do that on Earth, or you need to have a way to do that in Earth orbit, that doesn't exist yet, like a rotating space station, for example, and there's companies working on that. So that's a very ripe field for people. If you're a young medical researcher for space, look at artificial gravity research and the effects of Moon and Mars gravity on the human body. That's an area that not enough people are working in.
I see somebody else is still thinking about the plants. That's where my mind is at. Do the teams take over the plant growth from the previous teams?
They do. That's part of the handoff. When we took over the station from the previous crew for 261, we had several tomato plants growing, which were critical for our mission because we were going to do the biostimulation experiments. We did an experiment too to grow tomato seeds in Martian regolith for the first time using spirulina algae and compost, which is still a huge deal. A year later, that we were the first crew to ever do that out here. But that is a feature of being on a crew member here. So one of the crew roles we were talking earlier is greenhouse officer, the person that's going to keep the plants in check.
All right. Well, sounds like we got somebody that's interested. So I hope whoever posed that question that you apply to go on an analog mission. Anything else that you wanted to add? Any updates? Any exciting news? Anything else with MDRS or Flashline?
We've gotten this little MTI QR code up in the corner here the whole time. Let's talk about how that's going. I mean, I get a lot of questions about. We started the Mars Technology Institute. We announced it last year on your podcast with Alan Boyle and Robert Zubrin. We raised $150,000 through our crowdfunding campaign as of February this year. Yep, that's that's our patch. I've been giving those out to lots of partners. So the way things are going, we have 2 projects currently. We have a biotech project that's being run out of Florida at Stephen Benner's lab. Stephen Benner, you may remember from our conferences, world-renowned microbiologist, has invented DNA and RNA in his lab. He and Robert are working on a project which they'll talk about more soon, and we're going to get the community involved as well. But we're essentially trying to make protein out of methanol. So we're using a yeast to react with the methanol. So it's like a chemical way to create food at scale almost. And we would feed the protein to like fish or livestock on Mars, and the humans would eat the livestock or fish. That's our current thinking. They may have more. It's been about a month since I talked to them about that. But we are going to announce a way for the community to help out with that project soon, where they can actually try to do things in a lab, in their own labs, and contribute data to that project. And then the AI project, we're running out of Seattle. I have a former Microsoft colleague, Charles Finkelstein, that's working with me on that, as well as a couple other folks. Jeff Rayner, our VR partner on Mars VR, is also involved. And so for that, we're gonna announce it a little bit more later, but we're working on a system to help you do space research. An AI system that helps you do space research, has multiple avatars, sort of like experts, consultants that can help you. And we'll have a way for the community to help out with that as well. And we're also actively looking for investors. That's actually, part of the MTI, as I've talked about before, on other podcasts, other places. We're trying to form a research lab that's going to take breakthroughs and scientific and technological advances that are going to help us settle Mars, but that actually have commercial applications right now. So we can actually get research and investment funding for those projects today to help people on Earth that later on are also going to help us settle Mars. So things like AI and robotics, biotech, energy, nuclear and fusion, and systems like that. Those are all the areas of research we want to focus on with MTI. And it is a part of the Mars Society. It's eventually going to be its own nonprofit. It'll always be joined at the hip to the society. You can imagine like an MTI research team testing their stuff at MDRS or Flashline. We want to make sure that we're leveraging our resources. We want to make the Mars Society sort of like a talent pipeline for MTI, where all the awesome people that come to our conference and talk about their research can actually be PIs for MTI research projects. That's the model we're trying to set up here. We're trying to set up a headquarters in Seattle. We currently are running at a place called Venture Mechanics in Bellevue, which is a suburb of Seattle. And Venture Mechanics is like a co-working space where a lot of ex-Microsoft and ex-Amazon people hang out at and talk about startups. And there's a bunch of AI and tech events that are held there, meetups that are held there. I was just at the New Tech Northwest meetup that is monthly that they've had for like 15 years. And they have that at Venture Mechanics now. So we thought that would be a great place to be located at, where we can talk to people about everything we're doing. I also recently met with the mayor of Bellevue. I've had connections with the mayor of Kent, Washington, and Redmond, Washington. So all these Seattle suburbs that are pretty affluent, that have a lot of tech talent. A lot of people that used to work at Microsoft or currently work there. Amazon, Facebook, Google, all these tech companies. Boeing has a big presence in Seattle. Blue Origin. There's several new space companies. So there's just a lot of things happening in Seattle. Yeah. Which is why we wanted to put MTI there, and we want to work with the community there to build more facilities, build more places for test equipment to come in. I had a meeting with the dean of Bellevue College recently, several meetings with her, the dean of the business school. So we're still talking about stuff like that. I also recently was part of a panel at Madrona. If you're from Seattle, you might have heard, or work in the tech industry, you might have heard of Madrona. They're like a legendary venture capital company. They backed Amazon early days. So they had a space and AI panel that I was on, that got written up in GeekWire the next day. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff happening in Seattle, but MTI is, I think, there's a lot of really exciting things that are going to come down the pipe soon for that.
It makes total sense to have MTI there in this hub with so many tech companies. We obviously saw Amazon come from there, Microsoft, Boeing, like all having their headquarters in the area. It's a hub for collaboration. So that's really cool that's where you guys are putting MTI. You're going to have a lot of talent pool, like you mentioned. So obviously, you said we're looking for investors. We're looking to focus our roadmap for the specific areas like AI, like biotech. What could people do to help support the mission? I know we did the crowdfunding last year and raised $150K, but what could people do right now to help support MTI?
For MTI, they can donate. They can use our donation form up
Oh,
here. Make sure you
that way.
so,
It's all backwards on my end.
for me it's above my head there where I pointed, but yeah, we want to basically have people have the ability to donate. They can donate up to a point if they're an accredited investor, so someone that fits that status. If they donate $5,000 or more, we have this promise that was part of our crowdfunding campaign that we will still um, adhere to, which is that if someone donates $5,000 or more to the Mars Society as part of MTI, when we have a Series A round on one of these companies that we're going to spawn out of MTI, they will be able to invest in that company, and they will, if they want to purchase $50,000 worth of stock, they can do that for 45 if they give 5,000. So essentially, they can get the money back that they donate when they go invest. They can get the value of the stock at that time when they invest. So we put that together when we were doing the crowdfunding campaign, and there is a caveat that we don't know if we're going to have Series A. You may not like the Series A company opportunities that we have, so it's up to you. It's still at your own discretion to donate. But if you donate, we have other rewards as well. If you guys donate, I think we did $50 was a Mars Society membership. The patch was 25.
Yep.
So we'll still adhere to that. If you guys tag your donation with MTI when you use that form, we will send you the appropriate reward we did for the crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah. Other side, Dr. Zubrin's book. There it is, right there. We got copies of the book as well for various levels of donation. So I know that there are people out there listening that still want to get involved, still want to help contribute to MTI. So the best way to do that: scan that QR code, donate to MTI, and see those cool patches come in. I got to get mine added to my jacket. Can we expect at the conference that there might be any MTI updates, announcements, any cool, exciting news coming out at the conference about MTI?
Yes, we will definitely be having announcements about MTI. We will be having presentations about the two projects. We will have other related presentations for things that are in the roadmap, these areas we want to work in.
Yeah.
We will invite people to come do that. And abstracts, the abstract form for the conference is already up. So if you want to come speak at the conference, just fill out the abstract form. I believe the end of this month is the deadline for those. The conference is August 8th, so we need some time to review the abstracts and assemble the schedule. But yeah, please, if you're interested in MTI, if you are working in a related area to us, please come present at the conference and network with us there. And we also will be sharing more about the future research areas that we want to work in and the future opportunities we want to have for people at the conference.
I will be there as well. I'm looking forward to meeting with anybody that's going to be in attendance, any of those that listen to the podcast and want to talk about all that Mars Society is doing. But speaking of the conference, we know that it's coming up. What can attendees and audiences expect at this year's convention? Obviously, we already alluded to that there might be some MTI announcements. Any notable speakers or anything that you can allude to that we can expect?
We have a great lineup of speakers. Let's start with the NASA panel. We have all the people that work on Mars policy for NASA. The Mars, right now it's Mars sample return. I almost said humans to Mars. They don't have an active humans to Mars program yet. But the Mars sample return program, which recently, had a bunch of news. There was a big request for proposals that came out. Several large aerospace companies responded, which was awesome to see, and they were a lot of them were awarded planning funds for that. So Tiffany Morgan, who is the deputy director of the Mars Exploration Program out of NASA headquarters, is returning as part of this panel, as well as some of the other folks that work on policy for MSR. So these are the folks you'd want to talk to if you're a Mars. If you want to see humans, go to Mars, and you want to see NASA explore Mars, these are the people that we need to influence. They're the decision makers right now. So we have them. We also have Alan Stern, who was the PI of the New Horizons mission that went to Pluto, and he's going to have some really cool stuff to say. Who else do we have? Pete Worden. keyword and breakthrough initiatives. They're trying to figure out how we can go to another star someday.
Mm-hmm.
Among other things. And then who else? We have so many. We always have what people can expect is a who's who of who's working on Mars. All the people that are working on getting us to Mars, that are thinking about the various disciplines and topics that are going to help us do that are going to help us settle Mars. Things like bioregenerative life support, new technologies, new mission concepts, utilization of Starship. We're not ready. When Starship is operational in a couple of years, we are not ready to fill that thing up with cargo.
Mm-hmm.
People need to get going on building all the planetary surface operations hardware that we're going to be needing on the moon and Mars. And so, there's a lot of businesses that are going to be started to do that in the next 5 years. And
Mm-hmm.
so, we want to help foster that economy with not only our conference, but MTI and our stations.
Yep.
That the community, it's coming in hot. Like, we're going to be able to get to Mars pretty quickly here before a lot of people realize it.
Mm-hmm. I have to tell you a quick story. So I'm currently reading the Elon Musk biography written by Walter Isaacson. And there's a specific chapter in there, and I was listening to it as I was driving and on an audiobook, and it mentioned in the book that he was researching Mars and stumbled on a Google search, essentially, to the Mars Society. And he was really interested. He bought the ticket to the banquet dinner. He donated $5,000. He went to the dinner and he sat next to Dr. Robert Zubrin and James Cameron for that evening. And it just, for me, it resonated. It emphasized that this is why I want to be involved with the Mars Society, because we know, like you said, the people that are coming to the convention are going to be responsible. We're collaborating. The work that we are doing now is going to help get humans to Mars. So there's collaborations, there's partnerships, there's work and research that's being done within the Mars Society that is contributing to, like you said, Starship, to the various organizations within NASA. We've got Blue Origin, all of those companies, all those agencies, Mars Society is connected with. And this is, where you want to be if you're interested in Mars.
The chief engineer of Starship is Paul Wooster, who used to be the head of our MIT chapter when he was a young, undergrad. And there's so many other people that are part of SpaceX that came out of us. But also, we're a community. To me, the Mars Society is not just our nonprofit. To me,
Mm-hmm.
the Mars Society is everybody in the world that's working on Mars that someday is going to help us live on Mars.
Yeah.
We are the Martians, and we're trying to just get there. And so, the story you told, I heard the opposite side. I heard Robert's telling that story where
of it.
this weird
guy
named Elon Musk donated double of what they were asking for at this event. So they seated him next to Robert, and Elon had this great idea of, I want to put a greenhouse on Mars and have this money shot of green plants on a red Mars background.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to buy an ICBM from Russia, and they laughed
Yep.
at him. So he started SpaceX. Robert tried to talk him out of starting SpaceX because Robert had just seen Andrew Beale, another prominent tech billionaire, waste all his money back in the late 90s on Beale Aerospace, trying to build something like the Dream Chaser from Sierra Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And they failed. And the difference between Elon Musk and Andrew Beale, though, was that Elon Musk taught himself rocket science and just isn't a normal human being. But that's an aside.
Right. On the level. The book has been great, and it just emphasized and reiterated to me why I'm proud to be a part of the Mars Society and why I wanted to be here in the first place. Just the innovation, the technology, the research that's happening is so integral to the effort. And so again, just proud to be a part of it. And I love seeing in the book, or hearing, because I'm listening to it on Audible while I drive, hearing the Mars Society mentioned in there just makes me proud to be associated. So it was really cool. And I had to share that, and because I knew we'd be chatting about it. But funny how, look how far things have come from that first, time he donated and went to the dinner, to look how far SpaceX has come. Same with the Mars Society. Look how far we've come in that time.
Yeah, I've been part of the Mars Society since the beginning. When we started, NASA had a taboo on working on humans to Mars. Nobody that worked at NASA was allowed to work on humans to Mars. Everyone in the outside world, all the mainstream non-space people thought that going to Mars was science fiction, that it
Yeah.
wouldn't happen for 100 years. And then the movie The Martian came out, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, that's like a near-term thing. We could do
Yeah.
that."
Yeah.
And then we did our 2 analog stations. We have now, over 2,000 people have stayed at the MDRS. So we're showing that this is a real thing. We can do
Can
this.
be
We can
done.
live on
Yeah.
Mars. We can not only live on good, not only can we send humans to Mars and explore Mars with a crew, we could settle Mars. We could live on Mars comfortably. And I even talk about bougie Mars. Like, we want it to be like nice there. We're going to have all these world-class scientists, people at the top of their field on Earth living on Mars. It's going to be this innovation economy. Robert has a new book out called The New World on Mars. You should check it out. It's like the spiritual art of MTI is what we're doing there, is the world we can build on Mars. But we're working on it right now as part of MTI. But I think when we get to Mars, it's going to be a place that has tremendous opportunities for people that study math and science to get ahead. To just do their homework, study math and science, work on a field, find your own niche, something that no one else is working on, and make it yours. And that's your ticket to go to Mars.
To get in there. I love that. That's a good segue. I see we have a question here. You said study math. The question is, how can someone teach their students about Mars?
We have lots of resources for you. Go to our website, go to our education page. We have K through 12 curriculum outlines. We're actually running a high school engineering competition right now. We have, that's one of our colleagues, Nicole, there. So basically, there's a lot of ways that you can get people inspired about Mars. Teaching them about rovers. We have our University Rover Challenge. So if you're a university student, if you're a university student, form a team at your college and enter the University Rover Challenge for next year. It's next June, so you have about a year now. That's a great way to learn about Mars.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love, that's one of the things that the ambassador program focuses on. For me specifically, as an ambassador, my emphasis and my focus has been K through 12 education, getting kids interested in STEM. So if you ever want somebody like a Mars Society ambassador to come talk to your students and get them inspired about why is it important for humans to go to Mars, why is it important for us to, become a interplanetary species, someone like myself or any of the other ambassadors would be happy to do that as well. So reach out to one of us and we can put you in contact with somebody.
And we're always looking for more ambassadors too. The Mars Society Ambassador Program is a fantastic way to be part of our community. We also see that sort of as a talent pipeline for the rest of our organization too. So look up the Mars Ambassador Program on our website and apply. And anyone can apply for that.
Yeah, more to come on that at the very end. One more question. Gamma says, what is your take on terraforming Mars?
I think it's something that human beings will eventually do. There's a few roadblocks right now to really getting that going. There are lots of rules right now at NASA called planetary protection, which are also affecting the design of the Mars sample return mission. One of the requirements that the companies recently had was to adhere to that. So, for example, not landing the Mars samples coming back in Utah, like we did for the asteroid samples recently, like the NASA did. So there are some hurdles to terraforming Mars, but I do believe that eventually we will terraform Mars. We will learn the craft of making Earth-like environments. That started with Biosphere 2 back in the 80s and 90s. Look up that project. Go watch the documentary Spaceship Earth. Those people were trying to figure the same area of thinking and research out. How do we take the Earth's biosphere and put it into a terrarium, a small environment that people could live in on another planet? That's basically what Biosphere 2 was meant to be the precursor of, the prototype of, as a space colony. And so as human beings, we're going to learn how to do that. And we're going to learn how to make those environments, whether it's terraforming Mars. I mean, it may be that we never terraform Mars because we want to preserve it. We maybe want it to be, although I don't agree with that. I think we should terraform Mars. I think we should make Mars Earth-like, because it used to be. Mars was once a warm and wet planet back when the Earth was forming. It's a mystery why it lost its magnetic field, why it lost its atmosphere, why it's this dark, desert planet now. One of the reasons to go to Mars for me is to solve that mystery and understand how planets work better, so that we can understand how the Earth works better. But also the craft of making planetary environments, I do believe is going to be key to the future.
Speaking of Biosphere 2, there's a question here. Do you have plans to expand MDRS like Biosphere 2?
Well, there's a lot in that question. So what they're doing out at Biosphere 2, specifically at the SAM habitat, which is different than the main big Biosphere 2 building. That's now a research center for University of Arizona. It's open for tourists. Definitely go check it out if you're ever down in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, check it out.
20 minutes away. It's a fantastic place to go visit and learn about the history of that facility. The SAM habitat, which is like a 4-person Mars analog or Moon analog, they have some pretty interesting projects they're doing. Like, they have an artificial gravity rail in their Mars yard where you can actually have Mars or Moon gravity in your analog spacesuit. That's kind of interesting to us. We might have something like that in the future. Some of the other things they're doing too, like monitoring the habitat with this system called CIMOC that the director Kai Statz originally worked on with National Geographic. That is something we actually are partnering with them on, trying to wire up MDRS for, and they're building some sensors for us to do that. So yeah, I think in a way we do have plans to expand MDRS to be more like Biosphere 2. But it's not gonna be like a hermetically sealed facility, like Biosphere was. We're not, that's not really the approach we have here. The approach we have here is a high fidelity analog. So like when we put on our spacesuits, it's not really a spacesuit. It's not really pressurized. You have a helmet and backpack. It's blowing air. It feels like a spacesuit. It sounds like a spacesuit. You have a helmet on. You have limited visibility like you would have in a spacesuit, but it's not really a spacesuit. Mm-hmm. Now down at SAM, they actually have a pressurized suit they're working on. So you are actually gonna be in a spacesuit when you go out in the Mars yard. I hope someday we'll get to that, but we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Well, speaking of, growing your own food like that they were doing in Biosphere 2, a question here. Are you growing your own food for consumption at MDRS?
We are. That's not the only thing we use the Green Hub for, but we do grow usually salad greens and tomatoes, cherry tomatoes and things like that. It's not the only source of food. We have other shelf-stable food we draw from for crews.
Yeah.
And by the way, like, we used to be much more rigorous about our food study at MDRS. We used to partner with NASA on that. I actually should have mentioned that in that previous question about NASA partnerships. We once had a partnership that was led by Jean Hunter of Cornell, who we still are in contact with. She's retired now, but she did this whole food study where the crews had specific meal plans, and it was planned in advance. So if someone had a peanut allergy or was a vegan, they would have their meals ready. I'd like to get us back to something like that, but that requires us to have a partner and mm-hmm. volunteers and people to actually work on that area. But that is something we could do in the future. So, yeah.
We love it. Okay. Let's see. Any other things you want to mention about MDRS or Flashline, any of the other Mars Society projects, initiatives, programs?
What haven't we talked about?
I know, right?
The GeekWire article that came out recently was kind of interesting. I threw an idea out there of, let's put an AI edge device on a rover. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a rover. It could be something like a Star Wars droid, like R2-D2, mm-hmm. but something that you could follow the crew around with as they're EVAing. Mm-hmm. So imagine you had a crew of 4 people on Mars and they had this robot following them. And it was doing things like keeping track of everyone's health and status, measuring things like measuring gauges autonomously. We did, one of our advisors Bill Clancy, who's been a judge at URC and was part of the Flashline crews early on. He
Mm-hmm.
did this paper that analyzed the Apollo 17 astronauts. You know, the last mission that had geologists on it, Harrison Schmitt. And what he realized was they were using Capcom when they were working out in the field doing geology and doing things like that out in the field. They were using Capcom like an AI bot because Capcom knew everything. Capcom had all the science back rooms back in Houston. Capcom knew the inventory of what was on the rover. So when Gene Cernan's sitting there driving the rover and he's wondering where are the empty sample bags, he didn't ask Harrison Schmitt, who was sitting next to him on the rover. He asked Capcom. And Capcom said, oh, they're under the seat of the LMP of Harrison Schmitt.
Mm-hmm.
So like, imagine like we asked Siri, you know, hey Siri, blah, blah, blah. What's this, right? That's what Gene Cernan was doing with Capcom, right? So if we had an AI edge device that could help an astronaut on the field, that would be more useful than another astronaut for them. And so, you know, I talked about that at this AI in space panel. And Alan Boyle wrote it up in the article. Check it out. He kind of had an interesting take on it. He mentioned HAL and stuff like that, you know. But you know, we don't want the robot to go haywire. And I don't believe, me personally, I have a tech background. A lot of times people ask me, what about AI? Do I think that like the Terminator movies are going to come to life, right?
Right.
No, I think there's always going to be human beings in the loop. AI is going to be something that frees up humans to do what they do best. And AI is going to automate repetitive tasks. It's going to make things easier for us. So in the context of that example I just gave with the Apollo astronauts, what they were doing a lot of the time was relaying data over like the radio, like reading gauges over the radio, and they would make mistakes. Today we would just have wireless telemetry and the AI would help do that. And so that's the role AI is going to play. It's going to help us enhance what we're doing. But human beings are always going to be in control, I believe.
Yeah. I love where we're going with this. And I know that you're going to talk more about this when we get to the convention specifically about AI. So thank you so much, James, for your time today. I know, again, you're on site at MDRS. So thanks for taking an hour to chat with me.
I'm a lucky guy. I'm lucky. I have my dream job, but I also want to give opportunities like this to other people. That's what I'm all about is getting more young people engaged in our movement and giving people that work hard opportunities to excel. And so that's what I'm going to keep doing.
I love that. And everybody that has, been involved with the Mars Society and yourself and gotten those opportunities is grateful and happy to be working with you as well. Before we wrap up today's conversation, I have just a couple announcements to share. One is that thanks to the support from viewers like you, we are increasing our episode frequency to 2 podcast episodes per month. So that's the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of each month at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So excited about that. The second is that to kick off our new schedule, on July 2nd, I will be speaking with 3 individuals from NASA, specifically from the Mars Exploration Program. We have Najoud Moransi, the Deputy Associate Administrator for Strategy and Architecture Office. We have Eric Ianson, Deputy Director from the Planetary Science Division, and Lindsay Hayes, the lead scientist from the Mars Sample Return. So if you have questions about Mars Sample, if you have questions about Mars exploration, please tune into that episode. It's going to be just like this, where you have an opportunity to ask questions. So please, please, please tune in for that episode. We're really excited about it. And my last announcement is that our Chief Ambassador, James Melton, has graciously passed the baton to me. That means going forward, I will be the director of the Ambassador Program. Very excited for this opportunity and excited to grow the Ambassador Program. So if you're interested in becoming an ambassador, again, go to Mars Society's website, www.marssociety.org, for more information. And I would love to chat with you about the program if you're interested. Okay.
And congratulations, Ashton. You've earned that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. So special thanks yous to our Executive Director, James Burk, to our PR Director, Michael Stoltz, to our friends at Liftport, Michael and Leah. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to today's episode. Excited for what's to come with the Mars Society and specifically Red Planet Live. So as I always say, the best is yet to come. Thanks, everybody.
On to Mars.